and we are on page 297 of Sri Sarada Devi and her divine play. We're studying the idea of God as mother, and Sri Sarada Devi, by many, was accepted as an incarnation of God as mother. And so we're looking at her life, and we're looking at a chapter called Raju. And Raju is sort of her adopted, uh, uh, I guess, daughter in a sense, to take care of her, and that she was there. She was given to her to hold Holy Mother's mind down on this plane. For folks, especially people, bodhisattvas, these direct disciples, Ramakrishna, Jesus, Buddha, all of them have a tendency or the ability to go. Their spring comes from the top down instead of the bottom up. so so all of us are pulling our self with a string attached to the bottom, trying to hold ourself into higher states of consciousness. But these incarnations, when they come, their spring is attached up here, and they're having to hold themselves down in order to keep company with us, to be able to identify with us and teach us and show us how a perfect life is lived. But they suffer the same. They feel the loss, and they feel the pains that we go through. All of the incarnations, you can see that in their story, and all of them, at times, their disciples tell us that the reason that they go through all of that is because we would not be able to identify with them. We would not be able to fall in love with them without something to connect with, without understanding that they feel and that they love and that they hurt. That the difference is that they're in charge. They can withdraw their attachment as easily as they bestow it, which is the ideal in life. We talk about detachment because that's the one we struggle with. We don't, or detachment. We don't struggle at all with attachment. we love attachment. But detachment, we have a lot of trouble with saying goodbye to things. And so this is what Radu's role in Holy Mother's life was, to keep her attached, to keep her connected to this world, so that she could carry on with taking care of things, with leading the order in its first years, giving instructions to the direct disciples and teachings to many of her disciples, and Nivedita school and all of those things that she was helping with. So starting on the second paragraph here on page 297, in the evening, Holy Mother practiced japa in the shrine and asked Radhu and her cousin Maku to sit with her. The mother ate a little of Mother Simhavahini's holy earth and gave some to Radhu. That's that small shrine that's there in Karmarpur, I think, where when Thakur was very sick, Holy Mother went and laid down and begged Simhavahini to bless Thakur and to heal him. And she had a vision, or she was told to take some of this dirt and make some mud out of it and give that to Ramakrishna to eat, and he would become better. And so she did that, and indeed Ramakrishna was healed. And so this shrine played a very important role for Holy Mother. And to this day, if you can go there, they've got this little concrete well type thing that you can reach down in and get some of the mud of that place. People go there for that special mud for healing still. I had some in my room for years in San Francisco from the time that I visited there. All right, so Mother ate a little of Simhavahini's holy earth and gave some to Radhu. She also disciplined Radhu when she behaved improperly. One day, Radhu's sari was above her knees. Immediately, the mother said, "What is this? A woman should maintain modesty. Her sari should not be above the knees." Another day, Radhu was running down the steps of the Udbodhan house, and her anklets were making a jingling sound. Holy Mother stopped her and said, "Radhu, are you not ashamed? My monastic children are staying downstairs, and you are running down the steps with your anklets on. Tell me, what will they think of you? Take off those anklets right now. My children are not living here for fun. They have come here to practice spiritual discipline. Do you know the consequences if their practices are disturbed? At this, Ratu took off the anklets and angrily threw them at Holy Mother. So you see, Radu was having to live in a monastic environment as a young woman, and you see Mother teaching her about modesty and about not wearing her dangly jewelry that clinks and clanks when the monastics are downstairs trying to do their meditations, and to hear her running up and down the stairs. But you can see the trouble that she gives Holy Mother too, and it says a little bit more here in the next paragraph. Radhu was a sickly girl and mentally stunted. Despite her shortcomings, Holy Mother loved her. One day in Udbodhan, something got into Radhu's eyes. She ran to the mother and lay down, putting her head on the mother's lap. She said, "Look, there is something in my eye and it is burning. Please pass your hand over my eye and it will be okay." Smiling, the mother pulled Radhu's head close to her and gently passed her hand over Radhu's eyes. Radhu said, "My eye is all right now. I don't feel any pain." As Radhu grew older, she became a difficult person, eccentric, petulant, and stubborn. She not only disobeyed Holy Mother, but also abused her, cursed her, and treated her badly. In fact, her behavior toward Holy Mother became intolerable. So yes, so here this young girl that Mother was trying to raise her, in effect, we got Holy Mother playing the role here of a single mom. Thakur has already passed and she's still got Radhu that she has to raise, as well as take care of all of these disciples and all of the direct disciples and the monastery and the girls' school and the beginning of the order. She was extremely busy, but was right there with her the whole time. Radhu's marriage. Before Holy Mother left for a pilgrimage in South India in December of 1910, she and her brothers arranged Radhu's betrothal to Manmata Chattopadhyaya, a son of a wealthy man in a nearby Tajpur village. Radhu was then 12 and Manmata was 15. On the 11th of April 1911, Holy Mother returned to Calcutta and left for Jairambati on the 17th of May. She stopped at Kualpara ashram briefly and asked the residents to help her with her wedding. A few days later, Swami Sharadananda, Yogin Ma, Golap Ma, and two brahmacharins came to Jairambati to attend Radhu's wedding, which was set for the 10th of June, 1911. Oh, that's cool. That's actually an interesting little thing right there. You've got all of these sadhus and brahmacharis attending Radhu's wedding. That's a big break of tradition right there. So to have a sadhu at a wedding is a terrible omen, apparently. I've heard, at least I've been told, that for a sannyasin to go to a wedding is a bad sign, a bad omen for a wedding. So I'm happy to see, in the true, just mind-opening tradition of Ramakrishna and Holy Mother, that here at Radhu's wedding, all of those monks went to that wedding. And so you see, this is the beautiful heart of Ramakrishna, of Holy Mother, that it's not about the rules, it's about the love, and that rules support that love, But when it comes, like when Vivekananda said, if there's ever a battle between your heart and your head, between the logic and the rules and the should haves and the heart, the love, he says, always go with the heart. If there's an argument between your head and your heart, go with your heart. And so here we see that. A few days later, although Radhu's family was poor compared to Manmata's, Swami Sharadananda spent money without stint for the wedding to make Holy Mother happy. The devotees presented Radhu with jewelry, including a gold crown. Holy Mother was happy seeing Radhu bedecked with gold and silver from head to foot. Manmata's family demanded a larger dowry from Sharadananda, and Kedar Datta, later Swami Keshavananda, protested. Holy Mother called him aside privately and said that it was not auspicious to quarrel before the marriage ceremony. The village priest officiated at the ceremony, and Prasanna gave his niece Radhu away. The next day, the bridegroom's party and the people of Jairambati were entertained with a sumptuous feast, and they blessed the newly married couple. Raju left for Tajpur with her husband the following day, as was customary. However, Radhu did not want to live at her husband's house, so both she and Manmatha came to stay with Holy Mother. Before the wedding, an astrologer had examined Radhu's horoscope. He predicted that she would become a widow. After Manmatha had been married to Radhu for some time, he asked Holy Mother for initiation. She was not eager to initiate a relative, but finally she did. She remarked, one should not interfere with divine dispensation, but Radhu might escape her widowhood by the force of this initiation. Interesting. So all of those traditions coming together there. You know, this idea of modesty. All right. I'm looking at Mother and thinking, okay, Mother, you're really going to walk me into this conversation? This idea of modesty, I don't know, that's such a loaded topic these days. And, but, I think that it's good to talk about it, because if we as spiritual people should know how to deal with these things, should know how to manage these things and know why certain things. And, traditionally it's been put on the idea of modesty has been given more to women than to men. But I also think that I think there's clear reasons for that. I mean, and so this thing between the sexes, we've got a very, if I can be bold and talk about this freely, and I'd like to open it for conversation, and since it comes up here, I'm going to take that opportunity. That this idea of respect for each other is extremely important in the relationship between the sexes. I've thought about it for a long time, about what is off, and why are things so strange and getting stranger these days. It feels like there's almost battle lines sometimes drawn between the sexes, and it's really unnecessary. But God has given us each a strength. Women, it's their beauty, and they use that. That's their strength in this world. God has given the men the physical strength, and that's our gift in the world. Our strength in the world is our strength, and the women's is their beauty, and their just in that sense. And both of us, the men, use their strength to get their way, and we see that problem in the relationships between the sexes. And the women use their strength, and we see how that causes problems in the relationships between the sexes also. And so, more than modesty, modesty it would be a symptom of respect. That if we have a respect for each other, like growing up, I was taught endlessly about respect for women. To open the door for my mother and to carry the groceries, and to, always volunteer to pick the heavy things up and to do the work, around the house, and, that I could do, and always be very helpful and very respectful to my mother. And, that was sort of the other half of the thing. And then my mother, she stayed at home, and that was her choice. She wanted to be a stay-at-home mother. And I was very glad for that. I was very happy that she had the opportunity, and that my father, I guess back in those days, almost everybody could afford it. You didn't have to have a special job for one person to work. Nowadays, that's different, and that's okay. But it's this idea of respect, between each other. That men don't beat up a woman, don't push her out of the way, don't exert his strength over her when he could. And, from some perspectives, he feels he might have the right to that because he is stronger, he is bigger, and he can have his way. And, but society requires of him modesty in his strength, restraint in his strength. You don't hit a woman for any reason. You get up and allow a woman to sit in your seat. And in the days that I was brought up, I know all of this is subject to change and discussion. But what I'm pushing at is that we really need a healthy respect for each other, that men should respect women, and that is what gives us our restraint and holds us back in the difference that mother has given to us as men, and that women also respect the men, and the way that they respect the men is through their modesty, because we're not put together in the same ways. We are put together differently, and we that respect for each other is what helps bring those things under control. Now, I don't think that modesty means that men's purity is the responsibility of the woman. That if that's the attitude being projected, I think that's a gross misunderstanding. You know, that it's this modesty is asked of the women purely, in the same way that respect is asked of the men, for the ladies, and that we should really work on that. We should help each other out in that way, and to do those things out of that, not because we have to, because certainly we don't, but that it's helpful. Because I get a little bit troubled. I mean, I used to walk down on Union Street on Friday or Saturday afternoon, and I would see the youngsters, the 20-somethings, going into the clubs, and I was terrified for those young girls. I mean, I was terrified for them. Of course, I was in the monastery, so I wasn't going into the clubs at that point in my life, but I was watching these young girls walk into these bars full of men who've been drinking and women who've been drinking and dressed in staggering, startling ways that I'd never seen women dress in my life. And I thought, wow, that takes an awful lot of faith for that young woman to walk into a room full of strangers that she doesn't know, who have been drinking, who may not have been taught properly, and so for her own safety, I think that's an ugly reality that women have to deal with, that I've only learned about in the last few years in this world. It never really occurred to me that women can't go out whenever they want, that there's actually a feeling that they're in danger. And it's funny, as a guy growing up, that never occurred to me. I've never been inhibited out of a sense of danger, unless it was a clear and present danger, like there really was something there that I knew. But this, and that's an unfortunate thing. That means that really, on both sides of the equation, at this point, I guess I'll stop this with this. But just at this point, I think that really shows that both men and women we are waning in our understanding of what it is to respect each other and the ways that it's helpful to each other, in that respectability. That modesty is not the responsibility of the woman, but it's one of the nice things that she does, out of her respect for the other gender. Whereas, the men, and again, I'm kind of, believe it or not, still of the old world. I'll still open a door for a woman if there's any possibility of reaching that door handle before she does. And I've offended some women that way too, because there's some ladies that don't want that door open for them. But that's the other problem, I think, is right now nobody knows what to do. The guys don't know how to behave. The women don't know how to behave. We've thrown all of the traditions out of the window and just decided we'll do what we want to do. And that doesn't seem to work real well, And so part of loving each other is respecting each other and thinking of ways that we can be helpful to each other's freedom, which is really where modesty comes from, is that helping the guys out, because we are put together differently. And I'm not really afraid to say that. I think it's very clear. This, the thousands of conversations I've had with women over my life and with men, equality of the sexes does not mean sameness. And I think we still have to learn that, because we still keep trying to make it sameness. And we're not the same. And our mentalities are not the same. And just the bodies that we grow up with, radically change the way we each see the world. And I think that there's a lot of room for conversation in that arena. And to see Holy Mother trying to set Radu up for that, I wanted to take that opportunity and just kind of share some thoughts on it. And so let me give you an opportunity. Does anybody have a thing to say, or an insight they think is important, or an added piece of information that I left out, or am I wrong altogether? Otherwise, I'll just pick it up and keep going. All right. The village priest officiated the ceremony, and Prasanna gave his niece Radhu away. The next day, the bridegroom's party and the people of Jairambati were entertained with a sumptuous feast, and they blessed the newly married couple. She wanted to stay with Holy Mother, then the astrologer. After her wedding, Radhu began to have physical problems and became even more moody and irritable. Holy Mother lamented to her disciple Kedardatta, "My son Radhu was rather pleasant when she was younger. Now she is married and suffers from various ailments. I am afraid this daughter of an insane mother may herself become insane. Alas, am I bringing up a mad person?" At the master's command, Holy Mother had embraced this girl as Yoga Maya, which is that, the master had told her, take care of her as a means of keeping yourself in this world. And as a result, she now had to endure Radhu's verbal abuse. One day, Holy Mother cautioned a woman who wanted to adopt a son, "Never do such a thing. Do your duties to all, but love you must. But love you must not bestow upon anybody except God. If you love human beings, there will be no end of suffering for you. Look how much I suffer on account of Radhu." Wow, there's a statement. Anybody understand what she's saying there? It's an important but very high teaching, actually. One day Holy Mother cautioned a woman who wanted to adopt a son, "Never do such a thing. Do your duties to all. But love you must not bestow upon anybody except God. If you love human beings, there will be no end of suffering for you. Look how much I suffer on account of Radhu." All right.
So she's saying you love the person for the God in the person.
Yes.
And whether it's a son or a husband or daughter, not the person itself. Not the
Right.
person.
Yeah, exactly that. That it's that understanding. And we come to that, it's not just a projected principle. It's a reality, that you come to know the more in your practice that you are able to touch that divine source in yourself, the more you're able to see that you are in fact composed of bliss and wisdom through being, the easier that is to do. And this is why we practice, so that we can see that we love people for the divine qualities in them. That's the fact. But we have to become aware of that, because people have many qualities that aren't divine or that are not easily understood as divine.
And Maharaj, also, again, it's the attachment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that we have to be careful about.
Yeah, it's attachment and also death. Since we talked about that earlier, this notion that if you love the person as the person, there's going to be great suffering for that. That's one of these things that when I first joined the order, I was kind of learning about arranged marriages that was going on between some of the devotees. At first I was like, oh my gosh, what a crazy system to pick a husband for your children that they may not even know, and they have to just marry this person and spend their whole life together. And I just couldn't get over that. I was like, that's crazy. How can that even be? And then, over the years of thinking about it and seeing many, many, many marriages, I sometimes think that might be the wiser way, and actually I've come to the conclusion that I think really the best way is to have, like Vivekananda said, to bring the best of India, the best of the West, and bring it together to make a better third, whatever that third is, and sort of have an arranged marriage by choice, where there is that give and take, and you do give a chance to know the person that your parents want you to marry, and instead of having it be absolute, you kind of grow into it, but through that decision that your parents have said this is the person, because your parents are definitely sure. Yes.
Ours, one day I saw Mrinal only one day. I was lucky. Lasted 60 years and going on. But
Yeah.
not everyone is lucky that way.
Right. No, it's very true. It's very true. But the thing is in some senses, I like, what I really like about the arranged marriage idea is that the pressure is off. The pressure is on the both of you realizing, look, we're coming into this as an institution and as a decision and as a commitment to each other. In the West, you're supposed to be my princess and I'm supposed to be your Prince Charming. And somehow I'm supposed to make you whole, and you're going to become a better person, then I'm going to become a better person because of you. And there's all this pressure to be the knight in shining armor, or to be the Disney princess to your new Prince Charming. And it sets up a narrative that's impossible. Nobody's going to be able to be your Prince Charming. Nobody's going to be able to be your better half, because we all are full of faults, full of shortcomings, full of mistakes. And to enter marriage just knowing that, hey, we're just two people, we're making this decision, this commitment to this institution, to this tradition, and I'm going to give my best effort and you give your best effort, and that it's not built on this, this imaginary falling in love type thing, which, very rarely lasts more than a few weeks into a relationship.
Yes, Swamiji, because it's based on emotions, and emotions, they come and go.
No, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying either this or that which is better, but the arranged marriages, the mostly parents look for, the foundation is like there are more similarities in the backgrounds and stuff, so the foundation is there. Emotions are less, so one works that way. Not that I had one, but I'm just quoting.
Right. That's the thing. Nothing is perfect in this world.
Yeah.
And I think, let everybody get married the way they get married. There's not the right and wrong way in these things. Everybody does their best in what they do. But I do think it's important. I do think it's helpful. Of course, not many of us are heading into marriage age. But, going into marriage, understand the level of commitment that's necessary, and the ego challenge that it is to be married, to suddenly have to open your ego to include two people instead of just yourself. That's why the householder is a path. It's a path to God, because your ego, your delusions about yourself are going to be directly challenged. And your desires for what you want versus what your partner wants is going to require compromise, and going to require an expansion of your sense of self. And that in relationships, I don't know why I'm talking about all this stuff tonight, but in relationships, we always go into relationships listing out what we want. That's a terrible way to walk into a relationship. Walk into a relationship with the idea of what you have to give. And so, like, when you write your dating ad, if you just sit there and put your grocery list, I want somebody this way and that way, and I want these characteristics and those characteristics, good for you. Maybe you'll find somebody that will consistently meet those bullet points for the rest of your life. But in most of our relationships, and as human beings, as spiritual folks, especially, that we walk into situations not thinking about what can you do for me. We walk in with a nice long list of what I dream of doing for you. I dream of having somebody that I can serve, that I can love and be with, that I can trust. I look forward to, whatever your strengths are, whatever it is you bring to the relationship. And if we focus, because a lot of this, of course, comes from my upbringing as a Christian. Christians are big on marriage. As a matter of fact, my tradition thought that being a monk was sinful. So this notion of in Christian marriages, the way it's presented in the Bible, that the woman's body does not belong to her, but to her husband, and the husband's body does not belong to him, but to the wife. And so you set up a relationship where you both are trying to put each other first before yourself. And as long as both people are trying in the relationship to put the other person first, then both people's needs are going to be nicely met. It's going to work out pretty well. Your trouble is when that gets out of balance. One person is looking after the other one's needs. The other one is very happy and content to have that happen and just leaves it at that. And then you've got trouble, right? And so live in this world with the idea of what you can do. What is it, JFK's big thing? Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. This is exactly the truth. This is a secret to a fulfilling life. Live your life by gathering what you have to offer and give it freely, because you have an infinite amount of that love to give. And so walk out your door in the morning into the day, not with the trepidation of fear of what's this day going to do to me, but with your arms full of what you're going to do for it. How are you going to be at the office today? How are you going to take care of Sally at the front desk whose, son's got COVID now, or like that? But always approach life with your arms full. Don't approach life with what you need. And that will change everything about the way that you experience it. It will change everything about the way that you experience it. So she's saying here, don't do your duties to all. Like, she was wanting to adopt a son and she was telling her, don't do that. Do your duties to all, which means see everybody as your child. Don't grab specifics, don't do the particulars. It's like trying, as we see in Holy Mother's practice, she made the whole world her own. She made everybody her son, her daughter, and had that kind of caring, loving attitude toward all. And she did it serving the divine in everyone, the highest form of worship, to look for that divinity in each other and to love that divinity and serve that divinity, and to keep that perspective. Otherwise, all kinds of weird things happen. I've told that story. I had a woman come to me probably about 15 years ago now, and she was having trouble in her family because she said her daughter doesn't respect me, or my daughter doesn't respect me, she said. I take her to softball. I take her to Girl Scouts. I pick her up at school. I drop her off at school. I, run her errands for her. I pick her up, all these things. And she says, and my daughter just expects it, thinks that that's what I should be doing. And she says, I'm getting to the point where I'm beginning to hate my own daughter because I feel such a resentment toward her constant demands. And so we sat and thought about it for a long time about how to deal with that. And we decided that what she would do is she would keep a little pad of paper, just one of those little small pads. And everything that she did for her daughter during the day, she would write on that pad on one piece of paper. And then at the end of the day, she was going to take all of those pieces of paper with all of the things that she had done for her daughter. And she would go into her shrine and she would put a little, what's that stuff in the shrine that they put in there that burns, but it doesn't leave any ash? Camphor. That she would put a cube of camphor into the bottom of a little brass bowl, and that she would offer each one of those things to Thakur, so that she would remember that she didn't do anything for her daughter that day. She did everything for Thakur in her daughter for that day. And she started doing that. And she came back about a month and a half later and said that had helped so much for her just to keep that idea in her mind, so that she wasn't serving her daughter. She was serving God in her daughter. And she said that took the responsibility off of her daughter to have to appreciate her in a particular way, and allowed her to still continue to love her and to take care of her and not have that resentment arise in that relationship. So this is how we learn to give. This is how we learn to love, and how we learn not to limit our giving, based on how our love is being received, right? So that we can love people who don't invite us to their parties. We can give to people who are stingy, in the office. We can save that extra cookie for the woman who always takes two. But it's a means of letting go of this mercantile love that we learn in this world. Especially growing up in a capitalistic society. It's like the ideal of a capitalistic society is that you get more than you pay for. That's the opposite of a healthy society. That's the absolute backwards way of doing it. That's why that whole idea, time is love, not time is money. Spend your time doing the things you love, and then you'll want people to have them, and you won't care how much they pay for them, and you won't care if they pay enough for them, because love doesn't work that way. When you make a piece of art and you really enjoy the process of making it, when you're finished with it, I find putting a price tag is just, it feels like stabbing, like shoving a thumbtack into the side of my head. It's like, why? So turn your life into a machine, a love machine, not a money machine, where you're just doing things for love's sake, and you're just giving away that love freely and as much as you can, and to a great deal of joy, a great deal of happiness, and you will find it will be returned to you in the same way. So keep that in mind. Manu Ma, what time is it? Yeah, it's a good time to stop, actually. So we'll stop there for tonight.